Hello, my students. Today we're going to do Chapter 4, Erosion and Weathering. So let's go ahead and get started. What is the difference between erosion and weathering? Well, a lot of students think that erosion and weathering are the same thing, but they're not. So let's talk about what erosion is. Erosion is the process by which water, ice, wind, or gravity end up moving fragments or particles of rock and soil from one place to another. And that's what you see here with this stream. You have soil, water comes through here, takes it off of the bank or the bottom, and carries it over to someplace else. So we're actually moving it. The key point I want you to remember is that erosion takes it. Takes the soil, takes the small rocks, moves it from one place to another. Now, how does that compare to erosion, or how does that compare to weathering? Weathering is the physical or chemical breakdown of rocks into tiny or smaller pieces by heat, cold, water, ice, and all kinds of gases. And this happens over hundreds of thousands of years. We start to see, and in some cases even less than that, for smaller rocks, we start to see it weather or break down. So the constant heating and cooling and the water going into the cracks here and freezing and thawing eventually cause that rock to break down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. They fall down to the ground, and then of course over time wind, rain, snow, ice will eventually carry it away, which is erosion. Key point here, weathering breaks it. So if you can remember that, erosion takes it, weathering breaks it, you'll be good to go knowing the difference between the two. Well, let's talk about two types of weathering. The first type is called mechanical weathering. It is physically breaking the rocks down into smaller pieces. And we can do that in many ways. One way is through animal actions. 2, freezing and thawing. 3, plant growth. 4, release and pressure. And 5, abrasion, which is the grinding away of the rock by wind, water, and ice. So let's explore each of these just a little bit more. Animal actions. You guys know animals. We're talking about animals that are going down beneath the ground, burrowing down. So we're talking about gophers and moles, prairie dogs, insects. So all of these critters that go down under the ground, mice, they're going to slowly break up the rocks in the soil. And that is what's breaking them down. And that is your physical breakdown of the rocks through animal actions. The second one we call frost wedging. This is where we actually get water that goes into the cracks of the rock, and as it freezes and thaws, over time, you can see what's happening. It's pushing the rocks further and further apart, so eventually, over a long period of time, that rock's going to split and crack away from its existing rock where it was. That's known as frost wedging. Plant growth and roots. Oh, if you've ever been down hiking Hocking Hills area down in southern Ohio, you're going to see a lot of this. You can see the trees growing out from the cracks between the rocks, and that's all that's happening is we have plants and roots. The roots of those trees are growing between the rocks, causing them to crack and break. Abrasion, right here, is a wearing away of rock by other rock particles carried by wind, gravity, ice, or water. So over hundreds of thousands of years, that constant blowing of those rock particles against the rock here and there will cause it to create those shapes that you see there, and it'll wear it away. That's known as abrasion. Now let's talk about chemical weathering. It is the process that breaks down rock through chemical changes. Basically our cause and effect here. We have water. It lays in a puddle. A rock has a little divot in it, and we have the water lay there. It's going to dissolve the rock. Oxygen, mixes with the water. Eventually we're going to form rust. Carbon dioxide, well, that mixes with our rainwater and forms something called carbonic acid, which dissolves the rock. Living organisms like lichens that grow on top of rocks will produce a weak acid, which slowly break the rock down. Last but not least, acid rain. Acid rain coming from the burning of fossil fuels will also speed up the chemical weathering process. So let's take a look at each one of those a little bit more. This is what I meant. You get those little divots that are created in the rocks, and that's being created over time by the water. The water is chemically wearing away that rock, creating those divots there that you see. Oxygen, there's that orangish color, there's that rust that we see there, and it's combining with the oxygen in the water, and this is a process we call oxidation, and we get rust from that. Carbon dioxide, CO2, is dissolved in rainwater and creates something called carbonic acid, and that carbonic acid will easily weather away limestone and marble. Once it gets down, you can kind of see there, it gets down into the cracks of the rocks and starts to wear it away. Living organisms. We will go over to the pond here probably next week, and you're going to get to see lots of examples of this. These little things called lichens grow on rocks frequently. You'll see them on rocks, you'll see them on trees. They produce a weak acid that actually eventually wears and breaks down that rock over time. And you can see some examples right there. And plus you'll see some this week when we go to the pond. Acid rain, finally, it comes from the burning of fossil fuels. Oops, let's go back there real quick. Here we go. So, burning of fossil fuels pollutes the air with things like sulfur and carbon and nitrogen compounds. And those compounds will react with the water vapor that's up here in the clouds, and that's going to create a stronger than normal natural rainwater. And as it falls to the ground, it falls as what we call acid rain. And that acid rain will cause an acceleration of chemical weathering of rocks. Just speeds up the process quicker. Now, there are two main factors that affect weathering. Number one, the type of rock that we have and the climate that we have. Those are our two factors that will affect weathering. Now, rocks made of minerals that do not dissolve easily are going to weather very, very slowly. Now, rocks that are permeable will weather quicker. And permeable means that rocks have tiny little air spaces in between where the water can seep through it and carry those chemicals down into it and wear it away and dissolve it faster. Now, the second piece is climate. Warmer, wetter climates will weather faster due to high temperatures and the high moisture contact. So you think basically Florida, Georgia, you're definitely going to see a lot more weathering taking place quicker down there because of the higher temperatures and more moisture than you would see up here in the northern part of the United States. So these are the two factors that affect weathering. All right, that's pretty much going to wrap up this section. We'll see you guys later.